The motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Dunkley.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm pleased to speak in support of this motion and congratulate the member for Goldstein for moving it. HIV does not discriminate. People do. And as UNAIDS has said, stigma and discrimination will continue to exist so long as societies as a whole continue to judge people with HIV. And it can be said that stigma and discrimination will continue to exist so long as societies as a whole continue to judge anyone who is different. As speakers before me have said, Australia was at the forefront of a bold, innovative approach, public health approach to combating HIV and AIDS. As someone who grew up in the 80s, I remember, even as a young girl in country New South Wales, the fear that the societies had about people who had HIV and AIDS. And I remember the public health campaigns telling people that it could happen to anyone, and it wasn't just gay men who may be susceptible to catching HIV and developing AIDS. We are rightly proud in Australia of the fact that we took the advice of scientists. We took the advice of people living with the fear and living with the risk of catching the disease, and we devised a public health strategy. Australia's national theme for World AIDS Day 2020 is now more than ever. Now more than ever, we need to continue to focus on the science, to listen to the advocates, to make sure that we continue to work to eliminate stigma and discrimination, and that we don't take our eye off the ultimate gain, and that is eliminating HIV and AIDS from society. UNAIDS' theme for World AIDS Day 2020 is Global Solidarity, Shared Responsibility. And it's a theme that really reflects 2020 as a whole. Global solidarity, shared responsibility. UNAIDS leads the global effort to end AIDS as a public health threat and has a goal of doing so by 2030 as part of the Sustainable Development Goals. The idea is to stop new infections, to make sure that everyone living with HIV has access to HIV treatment, and to protect and promote human rights, because fundamental to the public health approach, starting from the 80s and continuing today, is an acknowledgement of human rights, people's right to access health care, no matter who they are or where they live. And UNAIDS also focuses on producing data for decision-making, because, as I've said, HIV can affect anyone. UNAIDS has an approach of prevailing against pandemics by putting people at the centre. And we've seen how that approach has also been adopted in dealing with COVID-19 in many, not all, but many countries around the world, putting people at the centre, putting public health at the centre of a response. So UNAIDS is calling on countries to make greater investments in global pandemic responses and to adopt a new set of bold, ambitious but achievable HIV targets. Again, harking back to the fact that Australia took bold and ambitious public health approach in the 80s with the advice of Bill Botel AO, who is still out there pushing scientific responses to epidemics. And that's the approach that UNAIDS is calling on countries to do now, because it wants us to set targets and then work to meet those targets. Winnie Byanyima, the Executive Director of UNAIDS, has said that the collective failure to invest sufficiently in comprehensive, rights-based, people-centred HIV responses has come at a terrible price. Implementing just the most politically palatable programs will not turn the tide against AIDS or COVID-19. To get the global response on track, we require to put people first and tackle the inequalities on which epidemics thrive. We've seen in Australia the COVID-19 has thrived on inequalities. We must continue to listen to scientists, to put people at the heart of public health campaigns, believe and support human rights and end inequalities. That is the formula for dealing with issues such as HIV and COVID-19.
Order. I thank the member for Dunkley. The question is that